There are lots of different Jewish foods. Some are indescribably delicious. Challah, matzo ball soup, hummus, and some of the foods are frankly just indescribable, like psha or gribbinus. And if you don't know, that's okay. Some foods are very holiday specific, like matzah, but one of the absolute best and most loved are Hamantaschen. One is Hamantasch, and plural is Hamantaschen. I think we go with Hamantaschen because honestly, who just eats one Hamantasch? And there's so many different fillings. There's poppy seed, cherry, Nutella. There's prune, which I suggest you eat those maybe after Passover. And I think prune would have been better off calling itself dried plum. It would have been a little more popular. I'd like to share with you the history of Hamantaschen because Hamantaschen really symbolize the courage to deal with what scares us. They symbolize the comfort of knowing that we are stronger than we think and that we can make life sweet even when things are difficult. The name Hamantash seems to come from Haman or Haman, the bad guy in the Purim story in the book of Esther who tries to destroy the Jewish people. The name comes from two German or Yiddish words, man, which means poppy seed, and taschen, which means pockets. And poppy seed pockets were a very popular pastry going back to medieval times. In the 1500s or so, German Jews started calling them Hamantaschen, or Haman's pockets. There was a play on words that likely references the rumor that Haman's pockets were filled with bribe money that he was giving to Ahasuerus so he could destroy the Jews. Plus, man, poppy seed, sounds a lot like Haman. In Hebrew, the word tash means to weaken. So Haman tash might celebrate the weakening of Haman in the hope that God would weaken the will of all of the enemies of the Jews. In Israel, they call Hamantaschen Oznei Haman, which means Haman's ears. And it seems to be a mistaken idea at first from the Middle Ages that there was an Italian custom about cutting off a criminal's ears, and that maybe this is what happened to Haman, because the Italians were writing about the story. But it's not necessarily clear that there is an actual connection there. And Oznei Haman was a different kind of pastry altogether. It was fried dough drenched in honey or sugar syrup, and that's popular in the Sephardic world and seems to be like the teglach on Rosh Hashanah. There is a great scholar of food named Gil Marks, and he talks about the idea that the first time the phrase as a pastry shows up is in 1550, again in Italy, in a play by Judah Leon ben Isaac Samau, and it talks about eating foods that symbolizes the enemy's ear. But then there's a second character that says the Jews have to eat Hamantaschen because the name of the pastry sounds like manna, which fell from the heavens to help the Jews as they wandered in the wilderness after leaving Egypt. So to say manna is man in Hebrew, so the manna would be Haman. The reason for the three-sided shape is uncertain. There's an old legend that Haman wore a three-cornered hat. There's an archaeologist, Simcha Jacobovici, that says there is a resemblance of Hamantaschen to dice from the ancient Babylonian royal game of Ur, suggesting that the pastries are meant to symbolize the pyramid shape of the dice cast by Haman in determining the day of destruction for the Jews. A simpler explanation is that the shape derives from the traditional Jewish baking techniques in Central Europe for folding dough so as to form a pouch around the filling, which was also very common for making dumplings. Others say that the popular poppy seed filling was a nod to the fact that Esther ate vegetarian in Ahasuerus' palace. She didn't want to request kosher food, which he probably didn't really have anyway, because she didn't want to reveal that she was Jewish. So she lived on seeds and nuts and legumes, keeping kosher under the radar, So Achashverosh wouldn't know what was happening and she could still be true to her values. But whatever it is, Hamantaschen are incredibly sweet and delicious, and it's when we eat them is so important. When Purim is so important. The first holiday of the Jewish year is actually Passover. Purim does not come before Passover. Purim comes after the previous Passover. Passover is in the month of Nisan, the first Jewish month. It's the first holiday that's mentioned in the Torah. Purim is the last holiday of the year, and it's the last biblical holiday. We start the holidays by eating matzah as a reminder of when we were slaves in Egypt, but also the fact that we were completely reliant on God for everything. Purim is the holiday where we recognize our God-given ability to stand up for ourselves, to stand up for others. Hamantaschen reminds us of the sweetness that comes with confronting our fears and helping each other do so as well, and that life is sweet when we do. We are still here, but Haman, he's just a crummy memory. Have a very sweet Purim.